Well, these are all conscious strategies. You can sort of think your way around a lot of these things, and also consciously you can work out. Well, if I've ate a lot of chocolates, then if I'm going to continue losing weight, I need to eat less of something else to balance it out.
Yeah. And I have done that before.
Yeah.
It's not exactly a healthy long-term strategy for eating, but it's a good short-term strategy for dealing with having eaten too much of the wrong thing.
Yeah. But by and large, it sounds like you'll get your way through Christmas one way or another. And, for next Christmas, because there will be another Christmas, you might think in advance and think, well, having lost all this weight, I don't want to set myself back again. I could pre-warn friends who might buy me chocolates, relatives who might buy me chocolates. Actually, I'm not going to be eating chocolates this year, so please don't buy me them. And some of them will just ignore you and give you the same things anyway. Others might listen to what you've said and act on it. But you're in charge of whether or not you eat those things.
Yeah.
And one of the things that comes to mind is, say for instance, whether it's Christmas or whether it's after Christmas when you're on holiday, and presumably you go places in America where you go into a place and you can have all you eat for whatever it costs. And the temptation then is to eat a lot because you've paid for it and you're allowed to eat, and you'd want to eat the best stuff available and the nicest stuff and plenty of it. That would be the tradition.
Well, yeah, I used to be very much like that, where the idea would be to eat until I was full.
Right.
Like, full as in didn't want to eat anymore. But now I don't have too much. I would have more than I would normally do at a meal served to me, but I don't have a huge quantity. But one of the buffets I do go to is a salad buffet, which is no bad thing.
Yeah. Excellent.
It's nearly all vegetables. So that's okay.
Yeah. I'm going to suggest something, which, having suggested it, I'll probably never mention it again. If there was a part of you that had a little bell or an alarm or a flag that waved, whenever you came across food which wasn't going to help you, which would be food that was fattening, obviously very high in calories but less high in nutrition, whether it be cakes, sweet things, whatever it might be. If there was a little alarm that rang up and it came up with a little neon sign that said, which would I rather do? Lose weight or eat this fattening food? What would the answer be if you could answer logically?
It would be a voice. It wouldn't be a sign.
Right, so you'd hear a voice in your head. Whose voice might that be?
Mine.
Your own voice saying, which would you rather do, Gary? Lose weight or eat this fattening food? And then the answer would come in what form?
In the form of a feeling.
You get a feeling. And the feeling would be what?
There might be some kind of rationalisation in there, like, well, I'd rather eat this food and I won't gain much weight, and the weight that I do gain, I can lose.
Uh-huh.
But that won't be all the time. Sometimes it would be, yeah, I don't want that, it doesn't do anything for me, I'd rather lose the weight.
Yeah. So the rationalisation, would that come in a voice, or would that be a feeling that you interpret it as that?
Voice.
That would be a voice that tried to argue and wheedle its way around it to find some way of having your cake and eating it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the feeling that you'd get would be where and what? Or did you just make up that thing about the feeling? And what told you to get a feeling? Was that a voice in your head?
I would get a good feeling from the decision I made.
Right. So once you made a decision, which would be some sort of rational thing going on, presumably with a voice or words in your head of some sort,
Yeah.
then you get a feeling which would be good. And the good feeling might say, good, go ahead and eat it. Or good, we're not bothering to eat it.
Yeah.
But at least if the question was asked somewhere inside the head, that would set you up for being able to make a rational choice and get the good feeling.
Yeah.
And if more often than not the answer was, well, actually I'd rather continue losing weight, then you'd get a good feeling more often by not eating it or by eating less of it. Because, the question could equally well be, which would I rather do, continue losing weight or eat too much of this fattening food?
Yeah.
And the too much is a very arbitrary thing, but somewhere inside there's part of you that knows how much is too much in any particular thing.
Yes.
And how much is too much in any particular day of the whole collection of things you might take in. But that question being asked somewhere, probably certainly would do no harm, but might actually put you in a position to have a good feeling for not eating as much and as often. So hypnosis, how would that help? Because that's the direction we're going.
It would help the decisions be more automatic and more consistent than just having to use conscious willpower.
Right.
Because I've never had a situation where willpower really works on its own in the long term. It has to either become an unconscious thing, or if it stays conscious, it's not going to last.
Right. What does willpower actually mean to you? If you sort of try and explain what is willpower?
Willpower to me means conscious resistance.
Resistance.
That I'm actually having to think consciously and be aware of thinking about resisting a particular thing. Or about, if it's willpower to, for instance, finish a piece of work, then the will to do that.
Mm-hmm. So willpower is a conscious effort to do something which unconsciously you don't want to do.
Yeah.
And there's a resistance, so there's a conflict going on.
Yeah.
And it sounds to me like willpower is unnecessary if there's no conflict.
Yeah.
If you consciously and unconsciously wanted to do the same thing, there'd be little or no need for willpower.
Yeah.
But the decision about what you want to do is still vital. So when you were saying about hypnosis perhaps making it easier to stick to the decisions and carry out decisions, I think that's quite key to the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because consciously, if you make a decision, this is what I'm going to do, then you can do that with or without hypnosis. And it could be easy or it could be hard.
Yeah.
And if the inner parts of you, we could call the unconscious or the subconscious part, whatever you want to call them, the inner parts of you want to do something different because they're being programmed to do something different, then you need to use willpower to try and force yourself to stick to that position. And that effort creates stress, which makes it even harder. Any conflict will create problems. So it seems to me the way around this is to try and not, for instance, strengthen your willpower.
Right.
To strengthen your willpower might appear to help, but it wouldn't remove the conflict.
No.
You'd still be forcing yourself to do something which internally you want to do something different. So rather than trying to strengthen your willpower, which may or may not be useful, it's much more useful to take away the need to use willpower by resolving the inner conflict and getting both parts of the mind, if we're using a model of the mind that has parts, probably simple enough to keep it to two. You could get as many parts as you want if you want to get clever. But if we think an inner part and an outer part, or a conscious part and an unconscious part, if we get those parts agreeing with each other about this particular project, working together for the same common goal, then instead of using willpower to force yourself to do something and having that internal conflict, both parts are pulling in the same direction, things become a whole lot easier. And to do that, one has to be clear about what the decision is.
Yeah.
To stick to a decision, first of all, you've got to make the decision. And you can't make a decision unless you know what the decision is, really.
No, that's true.
And if the decision's really clear, and if you're committed to that decision, then it's relatively easy to carry it out.